You know, it's always the same rhetoric from the anti-choice politicians. For life, but against honest sex education. For life, but against birth control. For life, but against making it possible for women to have healthy pregnancies. For life, but only until birth. After that, you're on your own. Voters in South Dakota and across the country are tired of the anti-choice rhetoric, and they said so at the polls in November. Women are not empowered by it. Families are not served by it. And this country is not better for it. We have a vision of a country where politicians can't interfere in private, personal decisions, a vision of advancing common sense policies to prevent unintended pregnancies and reduce the need for abortion, without making abortion access more dangerous or more difficult. Now, we may not be able to change all the policies in 649 days, but we can and we will continue to change the policy makers. And friends, it starts with the White House. We can't afford a president who uses that pen to undermine women's health and women's privacy. We can't afford it. So do elections matter? You're damn right they do. You're damn right they do. And we made a difference. Let me just tell you about 3 congressional races. In Iowa, Bruce Braley was facing 2 anti-choice Democrats in the primary. NARAL Pro-Choice America mobilized our supporters, and Bruce beat his closest opponent by 518 votes. That's 0.9%. In Pennsylvania, we persuaded pro-choice Republican and independent women to cast their vote for Patrick Murphy. He won that election by 1,500 votes. Just 0.6%. And in Montana, when Conrad Burns was viciously attacking John Tester on choice, we fought back. And my good friend, John, won that election to the United States Senate by about 3,500 votes, 0.8%. .9, 0.6, 0.8%. Margins of less than 1%, less than 1% that turned the tide here in Washington. Folks, that is the difference between winning and losing, and there couldn't be clearer about it. The question for us is this: what are we willing to do to ensure that pro-choice candidates can compete and win in 2008? I want to leave you with a story about my friend and what she's willing to do. Her name is Susan Wickland, Dr. Susan Wickland. She's an old Montana friend who lives in a small town at the foot of the crazy mountains. This is God's country. You can travel 100 miles and never see another person. Life is different out there. When I called her this week to talk, she told me she had to call me back because she had just come in from ice fishing. That's Montana. Well, one day a week, Dr. Wickland jumps in her car and she drives 352 miles one way to see patients at a women's health clinic in Kalispell. That's the distance between D.C. and Cleveland, Ohio. It isn't a Sunday drive. These are some of the most winding, treacherous roads in America, especially at this time of year. And yet she believes she has to provide abortion care for women in rural America. And the women she serves, they travel from small towns all over western Montana. That's why she drives 352 miles out, 352 miles back, week in, week out. You know, whenever the hour is getting late, and I'm asked one more time, talk to the reporter, make one more trip to the Hill, one more plane, Nancy, just get on one more plane to help that candidate. I wonder, do I have it in me? Just one more? Then I think about Susan. Her long, lonely drives on that road, a road I've traveled, and the many, many, many women that depend on her. If she's willing to drive 100 miles every week, then I can go the extra mile to fight for, protect the fundamental rights of women in this country, and I will continue to do that. Tonight, I want you to ask yourselves, what does going the extra mile mean to you? Is it going door to door or phone banking on election day? Is it writing a bigger check? Is it speaking up in uncomfortable situations? Is it making a promise that you'll work to elect one more pro-choice candidate? In the spirit of Dr. Susan Wickland, all of us can go the extra mile. You know, we'll look back on this time. We'll look back on the opportunities and the challenges before us. And I'm confident that everyone in this room will be able to say to children and grandchildren, our nieces, and yes, our nephews, that we did everything in our power to protect freedom and privacy for them, but for their children and for their grandchildren. What will you do in the next 649 days to go the extra mile? It's the difference between winning and losing. Thank you for being here tonight.